Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles the Bands. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show here that we want to get into. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. So, depending on the order in which you're seeing these shows, we pretty much shared with the audience today that Skip Bayless is now joined Barstool Sports, right? Barstool's huge sports platform. I think at one point they even got $1 million worth of game with Gillian Wallow. I think they were the ones that hosted there. I think they gave him $100 million deal last time I checked. That was a few years ago. So he's with a pretty big platform, and he made the announcement. At least I found out about the announcement on the podcast called Pardon My Take. It was a 2.5-hour interview, and the show in the last, since being published 3 days ago, has about 215,000 views. So there was a segment, I guess in the second half of that sit down where they were talking with Skip Bayless, and it was a long part. Like maybe their conversation lasted somewhere probably like an hour or 45 minutes. And they were talking about a whole bunch of different things. They were talking about his time at ESPN. They spoke about Tim Tebow. They spoke about the Dallas Cowboys. And then they started to talk about his fallout with his former debating partner, Shannon Sharpe. Now, when they became partners back, I believe in 2015, I actually really loved Undisputed. I actually watched Undisputed more than I did ESPN First Take because I found that show to be more entertaining. I thought their topics at times were a bit stale, but I found the show to be entertaining. I really started to lose a little bit of interest when Skip and Shannon would debate Jordan versus LeBron, and Skip's points started to get very stale, and they began to get quite repetitive. And I was like, okay, this is kind of getting boring because Skip wasn't really coming back with some good rebuttals. But overall, I enjoyed that show a lot. But then there was a moment that took place over a year ago where first they had the DeMar Hamlin situation where Skip and Shannon Sharpe had a very, very awkward moment on television. And then, of course, there was a time when they were debating Tom Brady. And things got very, very dicey. And some people felt like that was the final nail in the coffin in their relationship. And then subsequently after that, we heard that Shannon Sharpe was no longer going to be on FS1 and that his last day was going to be the day after the NBA Finals. And sure enough, the day after the NBA Finals, he left the network. And then he went on to go join ESPN First Take. And then his show took off and did the Cat Williams thing. And he's been riding high. He's been doing very well for himself since that time. And then Skip Bayless, on the other hand, ultimately he lost his position at FS1. So what happened? They were asking Skip Bayless to kind of take us behind the curtains and kind of reveal where things went wrong. And more importantly, after they had that exchange on television, what happened immediately? What was it like? How did they interact with each other? And Skip basically set the record straight on their viral exchange and basically put to bed a lot of those myths of what we thought took place after that exchange. So for those of you who didn't hear what Skip had to say, I want to play for you now, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Skip Bayless here.
My point is, I loved every minute with Shannon, but we took it to levels of supreme debate where it went right to the edge and occasionally slightly over the edge of competitive.
Yeah.
To where we got mad at each other. And by the 7th year, it's a long time, man. We had some great runs. We did some big ratings numbers, trust me, that will never be touched again in FS1 history, I doubt. God bless them, but I doubt it. But the point was that, yeah, in year 7, did we fray a little bit? Sure we did. But I fought for him to stay, and I don't know what happened between Shannon and the people upstairs because I was not privy.
Right.
But
yeah.
He went before I went,
yeah.
You know, and it tore me apart.
Yeah.
I did not want him to go. And I told him the last day, I sat with him in his dressing room and I said, I envy you because you're going to get to go do what I want to do.
Right.
I still had a year left on my deal. And he got pushed out the back door and it tore me up and I missed him.
So what would happen when you would go? I like the idea of supreme debate. By the way, it's like it's almost like Nirvana. You've reached the higher path. It's like an ayahuasca of debate.
Yeah.
You've gone through the wall.
True.
But what would happen when it would get frayed a little? Like the famous, obviously, the Tom Brady that moment.
That was the moment.
Yeah, that was the moment. But what happens after the cameras are off? Is it Is it don't talk for a while? Like what? Tell us as viewers how that comes back together a little bit, or did it not come back together?
I showed him from day one in 2016, shortly after you guys had started. Our first day was September 6th, 2016. We were
March 2016.
Yeah. So you were about 6 months ahead of us.
Okay.
I tried to make him understand because I handpicked him because I really thought he could do this, and he can do it and did do it because Shannon works hard at the craft. He was always prepared and always on time and always there for me. And I love him for that, and I will be forever grateful to him for what he gave to me for 7 great years, or maybe 6.5-ish, because now to these incidents, the one. Okay, so I think I misunderstood some of what he was saying, but what we're talking about Brady, and I'm a Brady fan. I don't even know Tom Brady, but I mean, he won 7 of these. And I can make a case he should have won 8 because I still don't understand why Bill Belichick benched Malcolm Butler for the Philly Super Bowl. I don't get it. I've not heard a rational, reasonable explanation of what happened, but he played the most snaps on defense, and then he doesn't play any snaps in the Super Bowl, and I don't get it. Something must have happened behind the scenes, but both Tom and Malcolm said nothing happened behind the scenes. My point is, it's hard to rip that. It's hard to... It's hard to criticize that as savagely as Shannon began to criticize Tom Brady. And I just couldn't get it. And so at one point he says to me, you do understand I'm in the Hall of Fame? And I said, yeah, but you're not in this guy's universe. He won 7 Super Bowls. Nobody's in his universe. And Shannon got mad about somehow I'm disparaging his career. Well, no, he won 3 Super Bowls and he's in the Hall of Fame. And there was some misunderstanding to it, but there was no lingering fight about it. And when we went to commercial, I tried to show him from day one, when we go to commercial, I am letting all of it go. I'm passionate about it, but I also know the show must go on. So I'm going to walk away for a second, as I always did. I walked over to my little desk and I began to prep for our next debate. And I let it go. People who ran the show decided we should maybe sit down after that one, and we did, and we had a great talk about it, and we hugged and went on to the next day. So we were really good.
Yeah.
We got through it, but that was the only day I can remember where he actually got mad on the air.
You could see it, and that's where it gets uncomfortable, where it's like the chemistry kind of...
And I told you, once you cross that line, audience is like, we're out.
Yeah.
So you heard his thoughts. Now, I'm glad that Skip came out and said this because I was unaware of this. I didn't know that they had a moment where they sat in the dressing room and they spoke. I didn't know any of this. I knew none of this. I didn't know anything of the sort. What also surprises me is that Skip didn't seem to have any issue with Shannon, but I think it's important that I point this out because he said it at other points in this interview. Skip is of the mindset that, okay, good. Granted, I am not an NFL player. Let's keep it a football for a second. I'm not an NFL player. You are the Hall of Fame NFL player, but it doesn't mean that I cannot have an educated opinion or I cannot be right on a particular issue. And I think that's a fair point. Yes, we may not be experts in the field, but it doesn't mean that from time to time we can't be right on a particular issue. I think that's true. And just because you played a sport doesn't mean that you're always going to be right on a particular thing. I'll give you guys another example in a different arena. Let's look at politics. Okay, let's look at politicians and let's look at political scientists. Politicians, just because you're a politician, does everything a politician say, is it everything that he's going to say that's right or everything that his constituency is going to agree with? Well, hell no. No. There is no perfect politician, number one. Number two, there are things that political scientists say, people that analyze politics, talk politics, that they say and that the people disagree with them all the time. And there are issues that they can be wrong with all the time. And there are times I've heard various political scientists say, hey, man, I thought this was going to happen and this happened. I thought the debate was going to do this and this happened. So it means that people can be wrong even though you're an expert in the field. So to simply shut down someone and say, well, you know, you never did it, so therefore you can have an educated opinion, that's wrong. Because just because you did it doesn't mean that you always have an educated opinion. You know what I'm saying? So Skip seems to have that position, and it's something that he defends viciously. You know, he's not going to let you bully him out of a room and say, well, you don't have a yellow jacket like I do, so blah, 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 gold jacket, excuse me, like I do. So no, Skip is going to hold his ground. And I respect that. He stands firm in his belief. A lot of people just give up their beliefs at the drop of a hat. Well, he played, it's like, yeah, but he said Michael Jordan sucks. Well, he played in the NBA, so he must be right. People just give up. Some people just surrender their ability to process issues, think critically, and they just hand it over to somebody else to do that. I applaud the fact that Skip doesn't do that, and I appreciate the insight that he gave as it pertained to their viral moment, the viral moment that he had with Shannon Sharpe. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think about what Skip said, or whatever you guys think? Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.